All right, we're at the last lesson of the year, and the lesson is on how to write and solve division equations. So here are the learning targets. I can solve division equations, I can write division equations, and the language objective is I can define the inverse operations. So here is a reminder about the 3 different ways that division can be written. So I want you to take a minute just to look at our 3 different symbols. Each of these expressions means 12 divided by 4, but we're using 3 different ways to write it. When we use algebra, we're going to be writing it in this way that's circled with the fraction bar. So 12 divided by 4. Or if we're using a variable, we might say x divided by 4 or m divided by 4 or whatever we're dividing by. So we have the equation r divided by 8. Remember that fraction line means divided by, so r over 8. If you need to kind of see it a different way, that's the same thing as r divided by 8 equals 4. And we're going to think about how we're going to solve this equation. Okay, remember that the opposite of division, or the inverse of division, is multiplication. So we're going to be using multiplication to solve a division equation. Okay, and let's read this. So the multiplication property of equality says that if you multiply each side of the equation by the same number, the 2 sides will remain equal. It has to be a non-zero number. So here we have r divided by 8. The opposite of divided by 8 is going to be times 8. So I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 8. I'm going to put it in parentheses just so you can tell that it's separate. But you could also just write an 8 times, like an 8 with a dot. What's going to happen here is that this 8 and this 8 are going to cancel out. And that is because we can always put a 1 on the bottom. And that's what we do when we're simplifying fractions. Things that are diagonal from each other can cancel because 8 divided by 8 is just 1. So we're going to be left with an r on this side. And on the other side, we have 4 times 8, which is 32. Okay. If I check my answer, which is always a good idea, by plugging the 32 back into the equation, I would have 32 divided by 8, which is 4. All right, let's look at 2 more examples, and then you're going to try a couple on your own. So in this first one, I have 10 equals w divided by 3. So step number 1, write the equation. It's already written for us. Step number 2, use multiplication or the multiplicative property. So we're going to use multiplication to solve it because that is the inverse of division. So here I have w divided by 3. So I'm going to multiply each side by 3. And I can do parentheses, or I can write it with like a dot 3, a times 3, like this. Okay, so on this side, on the left side, I have 3 times 10, which is 30. And on the other side, this 3 and this 3 are going to cancel each other out. And I'm left with a w. So 30 is w, or w is 30, equals 30. Let's look at the second one here. We don't need to simplify. Step 3 says simplify. Number 4 says check, so I'm going to plug it back in. 30 divided by 3 is 10, so I know that I got it right. Let's check the second one now. So I have y divided by 9. The opposite divided by 9 is times 9. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 9. Remember, if you do something to one side, you have to do it to the other to keep it balanced. The 9 and the 9 are going to cancel each other out. So I'm left with y. And 3 times 9 is 27. I don't need to simplify anything, but I do need to check and make sure I did it right. So I'm going to take that 27, I'm going to put it back in for the y. And 27 divided by 9, yep, that is 3. So I know I got it right. That is a good step to do at the end, especially when you're taking a summative, to make sure you got your answers correct. All right, take a moment right now to try a couple on your own. So you're going to turn your book to page 562. There are 4 got it's for you to try. Remember, these are all division problems, so you're going to be using multiplication to solve them. That is the inverse. Try them in your book and then come back and we'll check them over. All right, hopefully you did check those to make sure you got them, understood how to do this and got them correct. So let's see how you did. The first one, we have x divided by 8. The opposite is times 8. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. Okay, these are canceling. I'm left with x equals 9 times 8 is 72. And if you don't feel very confident in your facts, you can pull out a multiplication chart to use. All right, so next one, we have m divided by 5. So we're going to multiply by 5. Okay, these two are going to cancel out again. I have an m, and 9 times 5 is 45. And let's go over to this side of the page and see how we did here. Y divided by 4, I'm going to multiply by 4 on both sides to get that y all by itself. Y equals 32. 8 times 4 is 32. And the last one, I have 30 equals b divided by 2. The opposite of divided by 2 is times 2. Or the inverse, I should say, would be the mathematical term. The 2's cancel, so I'm left with b. And 30 times 2 is 60. All right, the last thing we need to do is look at how to write our own division equations. So our first equation says Zoe and Ashley are sharing a pack of stickers. Each girl gets 11 stickers. Write and solve a division equation to find out how many total stickers there are. So we're trying to figure out how many total stickers there are. So let's use S to represent the total number of stickers. Okay, we're going to use a bar diagram to kind of make sense of this equation here. So we don't know how many stickers they start with. We're not sure, so we're just going to call that S. But we know that each girl is going to get 11 of them. Okay, we're not really sure how many different groups it's going to get broken up into. We do know that there are 2 girls. Whoops, so I kind of messed that up. I did not read that question all the way through. So we know, I'm going to try this again. So we know that there are 2 girls, and they're each going to get 11. So you can write this actually a couple ways. The way that I would write, I shouldn't say a couple ways, 2 ways. The way that I would write it is that we're starting with some stickers. How many girls are dividing the stickers? 2 girls are dividing the stickers. And we know that they're going to add up to 11. Now you could also do S divided by 11 is 2. You can reverse those. To solve it, we're going to multiply both sides by 2 because we want to get that S by itself. And I know that S is 22. Okay, with my visual, I can see that they're both going to get 11. That would give us a total of 22 stickers. All right, let's look at one more example. The weight of an object on the moon is 1/6 that of its weight on Earth. So things weigh less on the moon because they have less gravity. If an object weighs 35 pounds on the moon, we're going to write and solve a division equation to find its weight on Earth. And our other important thing is 1/6. So things on the moon are 1/6 the weight. We're trying to find out how much it weighs on Earth. So we're going to use W for weight. Weight on Earth. Okay, let's look at it with a bar diagram. So I know that something is 35 pounds. And we want to solve a division equation to find its weight on Earth. Okay? So it's 35 pounds. Whoops. I keep messing these up. I should have looked at this better. Okay, so I don't know the weight on Earth. So I'm going to leave that as weight on Earth. But I do know that if I break this up into 6, okay, it's going to be 1/6 of it to have the weight on the moon. So I know that it's 35 pounds on the moon. So I'm taking the weight that it is on Earth, and I'm dividing it by 6. It's going to be 1/6 the weight. So look at my bar diagram. I broke it up into 6ths. And I know that the total weight that it's going to end up being on the moon is 35 pounds. Okay. These word pounds can be a little bit complicated, so make sure you ask for help if you're not understanding. We're going to solve it by multiplying our 35 and our W over 6 by 6 to try to get that W by itself. Okay, and you might need a calculator to find the answer to this, so you're going to type in 35 times 6, and the answer is 210 pounds on Earth, which you could figure out too with your bar diagram if you keep putting 35s in, and you'll see that it's a total of 210. All right, this is our last book homework of the year, so you're going to take a moment to circle your problems, deciding if you want to work on near mastery, mastery, or exceeds mastery. When you're all finished, make sure you submit it on Canvas.